it Everest or Everest? Were Norgay and Hillary really the first two to summit? Do you call it Sagarmatha, Chomolungma, or Everest? I am your host, Pauline Reynolds-Nuttall of the All About Everest podcast since 2021. Join me weekly for all things Mount Everest, including updates, features, interviews, trivia, and so much more. It doesn't matter if you are an adventurer or an armchair mountaineer. There's something here for everyone as long as you love the mountain.
Mount Everest is not the world's tallest mountain. However, it is the highest place on Earth. Mauna Kea is actually much taller than Mount Everest if you measure it from the bottom to the top, which is 33,500 feet and 13,803 meters. The majority of Mauna Kea is under the sea. So Mount Everest, which measures at 29,032 feet, 8,849 meters, is all above sea level, and that's what makes Mount Everest the highest place on Earth.
As an outdoorsy person, I am always looking to up my outdoor game. I have two favorite products that I've discovered in the last couple of years, and they are kind of my go-to. The first one is the Nomadic Outdoor subscription box. It starts at $29.99, and they have monthly and quarterly plans. I have discovered cool outdoor brands by getting this box and brands that I would never have purchased on my own, including introductions to gear that I didn't even know existed. It's a great way to get new affordable gear and discover new brands as well. Check out thenomadic.com. That's thenomadic with a K.com. My other favorite product is through mymedic.com. I used to have a hard time finding the perfect first aid kit for home, the great outdoors, the car, and my short-term rental. But with MyMedic, I have found the perfect first aid kit for each of my needs and endeavors. My favorite go-to is the MyMedic Hiker Medic Kit that we use for camping, backpacking, hiking, and off-roading. You can also restock the stuff that you've used through MyMedic as well. Both links are affiliate links, and I may earn a small commission from them if you click on the links that are included in the show description.
It costs on average about $40,000 to $60,000 to climb Mount Everest. That's pretty expensive, and that is the average breakdown. There's a lot of different variables to why the cost is so high. Ellen Arnett does a really good job of breaking it down every year, and I left you the link in the show notes. The different things that can change the cost of climbing the mountain are which guiding company is used, travel costs, gear costs, insurance, permits and fees, vaccinations, food, and what side of the mountain you're climbing from. The first people to summit Mount Everest were Tenzing Norgay and Sir Edmund Hillary on May 29, 1953. History books often overlook that Norgay also summited the mountain, partly because of Sir Edmund Hillary being a Westerner. Norgay and Hillary may not have been the first people to reach the summit of Everest. In 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Sandy Irvine attempted to summit the mountain, but they died on the mountain, either ascending it or descending it. No one really knows. Many attempts have been made to find Irvine and Mallory's body, with Mallory's body being discovered in 1999. They had an old camera with them, and so many people are hoping that if they can find this camera, then they will be able to determine if they ascended or not. The oldest person to climb Mount Everest is Yuichiro Miura at the age of 80. On May 23, 2013, the Japanese skier and mountaineer broke the record for the oldest person to climb Mount Everest. The previous record was also his when he became the oldest person to climb Mount Everest at the age of 70 in 2003. The youngest person to climb Mount Everest is Jordan Romero. When he summited, he was 13 years, 10 months, and 10 days old. This is a really controversial topic because of his age and the support he received in climbing the mountain, and I really hope to explore it in a future podcast. I was talking to my daughter about this. She's 11, and we had some really good discussions. Junko Tabe was the first woman to reach the top of Mount Everest. She was from Japan and was the 36th person overall to climb Mount Everest and the first woman to reach the summit on May 16th, 1975. She was a very successful mountaineer and achieved many things in the mountaineering world, not just as a mountaineer, but also as a female. There are over 200 dead bodies on Mount Everest. Seeing dead bodies on Everest is a pretty common occurrence. There are several viral photos online of climbers waiting in the queue on the Hillary Step, with a deceased climber hanging off to the side. It is really expensive and even dangerous to bring down dead climbers. That is why most of the bodies are left on the mountain. But also many climbers even put it in writing that they want their body just left there. These bodies have even become famous, if you will, and are even landmarks. Some of the most famous dead bodies on Everest are George Mallory, Green Boots, and Sleeping Beauty. Next week's episode will be all about the dead bodies on Everest, so make sure you tune in. Mount Everest has several names. It is named after Sir George Everest, even though he didn't really agree to it and didn't want it to be named after him. Initially, it was called Peak 15, and in Nepal, it's known as Sagarmatha, and in Tibet, it's known as Chomolungma. If you're interested to find out more about how Everest kind of became popular, as well as the history of why it's called Mount Everest, I'd really encourage you to check out the book The Hunt for Mount Everest by Craig Storty, and there's a link in our show notes. Really good reading. There are many dangers when climbing Mount Everest. Even though it's not considered the most dangerous mountain in the world, it's still pretty dangerous. As of January 1st of 2022, 309 people have died on the mountain. Some of the dangers of climbing Mount Everest are frostbite, exhaustion, hypothermia, altitude sickness, hypoxia, falling, avalanches, seracs, crevasses, overcrowding, and severe weather. The first expedition to climb Mount Everest was in 1922 by Britain's Royal Geographical Society. In 1922, Britain led an expedition to Mount Everest. They were not successful in reaching the summit. George Mallory was with them and became the first person to attempt to climb the mountain, and they went back after that for 2 more attempts. Reinhold Messner and Pete Habler were the first climbers to reach the top of Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen. Many mountaineers are purists and they believe that a summit should only be counted if it was made without oxygen, and that if you use oxygen, it's considered cheating. Messner and Habler were the first to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen in 1978. Mount Everest is in 2 different countries. It runs along the border of China and Nepal. On the Chinese side, it is in the region of Tibet. Summit attempts are made from both sides. There are pros and cons to climbing either side, and hopefully we'll cover this in a future episode. Cami Rita Sherpa has climbed Everest the most times on record. Cami Rita Sherpa has made the most summits of Everest with a total of 25. His last ascent was in May of 2021, and this is a Guinness Book of World Records record. It takes about 2 months to climb Mount Everest. Because the top of Mount Everest is at such a high altitude, climbers have to acclimatize. Their bodies need to get used to the elevation change, which takes weeks. A lot of the times they'll go up a portion of the way, come back down, go up again even higher until their bodies acclimatize. Altitude sickness can be really dangerous and you can die from it. I know that living at 4,000 feet, every time I go above 10,000, I struggle a little bit. So I can completely understand why it takes so long. You can visit Everest Base Camp. Everest Base Camp, both of them, has become a popular tourist attraction. There are 2 base camps, one on the north side in Tibet and one on the south side in Nepal. The one in Nepal is extremely popular, and the base camp on the Tibetan side has been closed since 2019. A lot of people that love the mountain but know they can't climb it will go and visit one of the Everest base camps instead. This is kind of my plan. I'd like to do it in 5 years when my daughter turns 16. The death zone is one of the most dangerous places on Everest. So many deaths are attributed to the death zone. The reason that it is so dangerous is because the air is so thin. Climbers are discouraged from spending a considerable time in the death zone, and every 8,000 meter peak has a death zone. Everest is considered one of the 14 peaks. There are only 14 mountains that are over 8,000 meters above sea level. Everest is one of them. Nirmal Purja, aka Nimsday, currently holds the record for summiting all 14 peaks in the least amount of time, and you should really check out his new documentary, 14 Peaks. And that concludes this week's episode. Tune in next Wednesday for episode 2 about the dead bodies on Mount Everest. If you loved this podcast, please rate, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. I covered a lot of topics today, and I hope to go into them more thoroughly for other podcast episodes. If you have any ideas or there's something that you're interested in or you want covered, please let us know. You can email us at allaboutEverestpodcast@mamabearoutdoors.com or drop us a line on our social media.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the All About Everest podcast. Please support this podcast by following, rating, commenting, and sharing. I appreciate your feedback, and you can find me on social media at Mama Bear Outdoors or at All About Everest podcast. Thank you for following and listening since 2022.